11 minutes past 3, BBC Radio 5 Live. Household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hit bills for the first time. The regulator Ofgem says the war means a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity will pay £221 more a year, with an annual bill of £1,862. The cap affects millions of homes on variable tariffs in England, Scotland and Wales, and suppliers are warning it could go even higher in the colder winter months without an end to the conflict. Earlier, I spoke to Richard Nadig, the Director of Regulation at Uswitch, the price comparison and switching service.
The rules around the energy price cap are every 3 months, the regulator comes along, gets its spreadsheet out and works out what the energy price cap should be set at. And just remember with that, that's about 60% of us that are on something called the standard variable or the default plan. And that's what follows the price cap. If you've taken a fixed deal, locked a price in, this doesn't apply to you. But if you haven't done that, you're basically on this thing called the price cap. Ofgem comes along with its spreadsheet and looks at all of the costs that our energy suppliers have had to face in what they call an observation window. So that's the last 3 months, what's happened. And so what we've been seeing now is in the price cap that we currently have in place, that came in April, prices actually came down because the government put some stuff in place to reduce some levies on the bill. So we actually saw a decrease. And then pretty much as soon as that happened, the situation that we've seen in the Middle East that has had a big impact on the wholesale prices, sort of input prices that our suppliers have to pay for electricity and gas, went up as a result of all of the stuff in the Middle East. Now, it took almost 3 months for that to come and flow through because that's how often the price cap is set. And that means the one that's coming on the 1st of July has to take into account of all this stuff that's kicked off in the Middle East. And what that is meaning is the price is going up 13%. So it's a pretty hefty whack. And for typical usage, so if you have average consumption across the course of a whole year, what that means is a rise of £221. So a pretty chunky rise to kind of get your head around how much we're really talking here.
Yeah. Polling suggests that people are on some level resigned to seeing price increases. They say they feel powerless, angry that rises are unavoidable. What does that tell us about how much the public has faith in or has lost faith in the energy market altogether, do you think?
It is a really difficult time for households, consumers, especially on energy. But it's not just energy. Cost of living is going up across the piece, and it is pretty disheartening. You spend 5 minutes watching the news and you'll be disheartened about the stuff and the impact that it's having on us. So on energy bills that obviously we at Uswitch are very close to, we see this all the time. Now, some people, 40% of households, have got on a good fixed deal. They've locked in some protection. They've locked in some cheap rates, which is great. But for the 60% of people that haven't done that, they're the ones that are going to get hit by this really chunky rise that's coming in the 1st of July. And it is quite easy to actually, look around, find a good deal, switch to it. But because the news is so miserable, it's quite hard to get in a trap of thinking it's complicated, or people are worried, what if my decision isn't 100% right? What if a week later the deal might be £10 cheaper or something? And the fear of getting it slightly wrong means people get it massively wrong and don't take those deals that could help avoid these price increases altogether, which is the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, as you say, 60%, millions of households still on variable tariffs despite years of volatility. So the reason why these people maybe haven't decided to go and fix, is it because the market is still too confusing for customers or consumers? Is it because they are in some ways trying to sort of switch off from what's going on out there and maybe don't want to have to delve into what the news agenda is doing for their own cost of living crisis in their own home? Like, what is it? Why are people not necessarily engaging with it?
The truth of it is it a mixture of all those reasons why people don't get round to it. It has been increasing, by the way, because the deals are so good. We have seen it go up. But a lot of people don't engage with it for various reasons. Some it's just the fact that we're here talking about what's going to happen in winter, which is the real big thing here when we actually use a lot of energy. That's the real big risk of these price rises. And who wants to think about winter when it's really hot outside? Yeah. Like some people are just like, let me enjoy the summer for goodness sake. But some people are there's just too much news, too much frustration. This is not just the only thing. It's the sort of having to think about this across all sorts of different things can put people off. We find, though, a lot of people just think it's more complicated than it is in practice, when actually it's pretty quick to run a comparison. All the data can be pulled there, and then you can see deals right immediately. And the deals that are available now, we're talking, are around the current price cap. So compared to that one in April, the one in July that's coming, you can actually lock in rates that are around the level of today, which means you can completely avoid this increase and lock in those rates for all of winter. Some people are worried that what if the deals get better? What if the situation in the Middle East gets better tomorrow? Now, for this particular situation, unfortunately, even if the situation does get better tomorrow, a lot of natural gas is held up in the straits. There's infrastructure that's been damaged. There's lots of things that would take a while to resolve. So we are in this for a decent amount of time, even if things do get better. So protecting yourself for the winter is the right thing to do. And you've got to think about it both ways. People worry about, what if I could have saved £10 extra or something? But the situation is it could get a lot worse as well, and then you haven't got that protection. Ofgem comes along, as we've been saying, every 3 months and reviews this thing on the variable tariff. Every 3 months. If things get better, the amount they can delay it for is a maximum of 3 months. I think the situation we're in, the figures as we look at them, don't let yourself go into winter without taking a really good fixed deal and locking in a rate where you don't have to be exposed to these price increases at all. So at Uswitch, we're doing everything we can. Just now is the moment to do it. Like, we might have been put off. It's not as, the numbers have been more difficult in previous months. Now is a very clear moment to do it. Do not let yourself get exposed to this.
Yeah. Suppliers are warning that prices could go higher. So when does the cap get set again, and what do you expect to see?
This is the really big concern. So this cap, 1st of July, is in the summer months, and it sets your rates. It doesn't set your overall bill. So we don't use that much, which means that it doesn't matter as much in this particular period. The real worry is, what about winter? The next cap is going to be set for the 1st of October. We're going to hear about that towards the end of August. The predictions of this are slightly less certain the further you go out, but the current predictions are that it's actually going to go up a bit on top of the rise that we already know we're going to get for the 1st of July, which is not unusual for that to happen as we approach winter when energy supplies are more constrained. So there's no predictions that it's coming down from these sort of levels. We don't know the exact number, but the level that we're going to see it go to the 1st of July, it looks like we're going to maintain at that level a certain amount of time. And right now, you can get fixed deals that are more than £200 less than that. So locking in rates where you don't have to be exposed to the July price increase. If there's one in October, you don't have to be exposed to that. If there's another one in January, you don't have to be exposed to that. You'll get a year locked in at cheap rates, and this just won't apply to you.
Yeah, and I just wonder how vulnerable households with medical equipment, for example, people that have a disability or have high unavoidable energy use, how vulnerable they are to another winter of rising costs.
It's a huge concern for those that are more vulnerable. If we look at some of the stuff the government has done historically, now these price increases aren't as bad as what we saw in the sort of aftermath of Russia-Ukraine. They were a lot worse than this. And at that point, the government stepped in across everyone's energy bills and capped them at a typical usage of £2,500. So still a huge amount of money, but they stepped in for everyone. The government this time, because it's not that same extent and it doesn't have the money, has been very, very clear that if it does need to intervene in winter, it's going to be for the most vulnerable customers only. It hasn't said what specifically it will do. That detail is to come because we don't know the exact numbers we're going to see yet. So hopefully for those that are in that kind of situation that you described, that have very high energy usage, use a lot of medical equipment, that sort of thing, there's a chance there'll be some government help. But for households that aren't in that situation, the government is quite clear that there's very unlikely to be any help, which is why those kind of customers have to take matters into their own hands.
That was Richard Newdig, the Director of Regulation at Uswitch, the price comparison and switching service, who joined me a little bit early.